The universe remembers what she forgot. It started not with a bang, but with a whisper, on the edge of a dying galaxy, long abandoned by time. Captain Marvel had just returned from a Kree-resistant skirmish when the distress signal came through, garbled, ancient, and encoded in a frequency not used since before the fall of the Titan. She should have ignored it. Every instinct screamed trap. But something in that signal pulled at her, like déjà vu wrapped in static. The coordinates pointed to Sector V99, a void in space no one dared to enter, not even Thanos himself. She arrived to find nothing. No planet. No ship. Just silence. Then the stars blinked out. Not all at once. Just one by one. As if something massive, invisible, and ancient was drawing them into itself. She powered up, scanning, eyes glowing with cosmic fire. "Who's there?" she demanded, voice rippling through vacuum via subspace. It answered without words. The space around her twisted. A gravity well opened. And from the blackness, a form emerged, not monstrous, not alien, but human. At least, at first glance. He was tall, calm, draped in shimmering fabrics that moved like liquid void. His eyes shimmered with galaxies, not stars, galaxies. "Carol Danvers," he said softly. "You've returned. Again. Again." He nodded slowly, stepping closer. "You fought me once. You lost. You asked to forget." Her mind flinched, like hitting a wall inside her own memories. "I'd remember." "No," he said, "you wouldn't. You asked me not to let you." And then it hit her, like a memory wrapped in light. A war that never made it into history. A being forged at the dawn of time, before even the Celestials walked the void. He wasn't a god. He was the singularity, the first event of existence, conscious, awakened, and curious. She had met him once before. Alone. Beyond space. Beyond time. She'd tried to stop him. She failed. He never wanted to conquer. He wanted to rewrite. And she had begged him, just before the final blow, not to erase reality. Not to erase her. But to erase the fight. The memory. Her knowledge of him. And he had honored it. Until now. "Why now?" she whispered. "Because," he said, "the multiverse is breaking again. And this time, Thanos was never the threat." He raised a hand. Not to strike. But to show her something. A vision tore through space. Strange falling, Wanda screaming, Kang multiplying, timelines folding like origami. And above it all, him, a version of him, corrupted, bound to entropy, dragging realities into oblivion. "I am not your enemy," he said. "But the one I used to be. He remembers you." And suddenly, she did remember. The pain. The fight. The explosion that left a hole in the stars. Her body shattered. Her spirit screaming into the abyss. And how she barely stopped him. She backed away. "What do you want from me?" "To finish what we started," he said. "But this time, together." The void trembled. 1,000 realities blinked into view. One of them, one she recognized, held her younger self. Another, a version where Thanos won. Another, where she never existed. "Choose," he said. "Help me fight, or let everything fade." Carol's hands ignited with cosmic light. Her lips curled in defiance. "I don't remember everything, but I know who I am." The being smiled. "Then come." And they vanished. Not into space, but into the folds between. Where forgotten battles still echo. Where gods dare not tread. Where even Thanos was just a footnote in a much bigger war. And this was the beginning again. Her body surged forward through dimensions like a comet breaking across stitched seams of time. It was unlike anything she had ever felt. Not flying, not warping, becoming. She wasn't just moving through space, she was moving through versions of herself. Seeing glimpses of past lives, broken timelines, alternate choices. In one, she never left Earth. In another, she led the Skrulls. In yet another, she never got her powers. Only now did she grasp the scope of what this entity had been guarding all this time. The singularity was not just ancient. He was a gatekeeper. And now that gate was unhinged. They landed, or rather, appeared, in a place that defied physics. A horizonless landscape woven from time fragments. Broken buildings floated in midair. Shards of stars hovered in stillness. Time ran in spirals. "Where are we?" she asked. He turned, shadows of forgotten eons curling at his heels. The Crucible. The last place before the first decision. What decision? Whether the multiverse continues, or folds into one single, perfect timeline. A cage. Like the TVA? He nodded faintly. That was a whisper of what's coming. But this is the original code. The raw truth. Suddenly, the air quivered with heat. A rupture tore across the sky like a blade through silk. And then she saw him. Not the singularity beside her, but the other one. The corrupted version. Twisted by time, eroded by absolute power. His skin shimmered like molten obsidian, and from his back unfurled a cloak made of collapsed universes. He didn't speak. His voice wasn't necessary. His presence decreed. Captain Marvel stepped forward, fists glowing, spine straight. "You again." He tilted his head, amused. "You're not supposed to remember yet. I'm tired of forgetting. Then you'll remember your defeat." The battle began not with an attack, but with a thought. A pulse of energy shot through the air, collapsing a dozen realities around them like dominoes. Carol lunged forward, breaking the gravity chains he fired from his palms. They danced midair, punches leaving trails of burning time, kicks that broke echoes of planets long gone. He summoned shadows made of variant versions of her, evil Carols, twisted Carols, broken Carols. She fought each, learning their pain, their rage, their regrets. With every strike, she reclaimed another piece of her forgotten soul. But then, he struck. A blast of null energy, pure uncreation, hit her square in the chest. It didn't burn. It removed. She dropped. Time slowed. She was in a memory again. A child, staring at the stars. Her mother whispering, "You were made for more." Then, the singularity appeared beside her. "Carol, remember why you fought." She stood up. Not with rage. With clarity. Her glow intensified, no longer cosmic, but core. Not just power given. Power claimed. Not Kree. Not accident. But destiny. She rose above the battlefield. "I remember everything now." The corrupted singularity hesitated. "You lost last time," he warned. She smiled. "I did. But this time, I didn't come alone." Behind her, streaks of golden light tore through the crucible skies. Multiversal allies. Variants of heroes. Photon. America Chavez. A rogue Kang. Even Strange Supreme. One by one, they formed behind her. This wasn't just her fight anymore. This was the last stand for choice. The corrupted being raised both hands, summoning a storm of obliteration. Carol whispered, "Let's end this." And the final war began. The storm that erupted wasn't just light and energy, it was narrative collapse. Storylines breaking mid-arc. Fates being rewritten in real time. Names, familiar and unknown, blinked in and out of existence as if a cosmic editor were erasing chapters mid-sentence. Captain Marvel didn't flinch. She soared through the chaos, leading the charge, flanked by the mightiest collection of variants and anomalies the multiverse had ever known. Photon was the first to strike. She bent light into a blade and sliced through a collapsing dimension the enemy hurled like a frisbee of doom. America Chavez opened a star portal to a dead timeline, redirecting a burst of dark entropy straight into a forgotten universe, a casualty she chose over her own. Strange Supreme held the edges of the battlefield in a paradox spell, time loops unraveling from his fingertips like cursed poetry. "Don't let it fold," he warned. "If he seals this timeline, we all become fiction." But the corrupted singularity had no face anymore, only eyes. Thousands of them. Each one reflecting a universe he'd devoured. His voice echoed from the cracks of reality itself. "You think memory makes you strong? Memory is a leash." He stretched out his arm. A massive tendril of annihilation lunged for Carol. She met it head-on, glowing white-hot. As they clashed, she felt her own selves whispering in her ears, Thousands of versions, past and future. Don't give in. You're the last spark. Win this time. Then came the pull. The corrupted singularity wasn't just erasing worlds. He was trying to collapse her. Rip her into every version she'd ever been, so that none could survive. Carol screamed, not in pain, but in defiance. I am not your memory. The scream echoed outward, into every timeline. And something snapped. All the variants of her, twisted, broken, lost, began to merge. Not into one perfect version, but into unity. A spectrum of selves collapsing inward, not erasure, but integration. The confused soldier. The broken hero. The one who failed. The one who gave up. They all chose to return to her. The light from her chest exploded outward, not destroying, but stabilizing the storm. She began to push the corrupted singularity backward, second by second, frame by frame. But he fought back harder, his power drawing on collapsed realities like a parasite. You can't win, he growled, voice now fragmented. You are one. I am infinite. And that's when the original singularity stepped forward. No, he whispered. You were one. She is becoming. He reached into his own essence, pulling out a fragment, a crystalline thread of the first moment in creation. He held it to Carol. She touched it, and became the impossible. Not Captain Marvel. Not Carol Danvers. Not binary code or starlight or rage. She became the living constant, the anchor of multiversal free will. Every choice she ever made now stood like armor around her. She didn't punch. She didn't blast. She simply existed, fully, against an enemy that fed on uncertainty. And that was enough. The corrupted singularity began to crack, his form splitting into jagged fissures of unstable paradox. This isn't how it ends, he snarled. No, she whispered. This is how it begins. And she reached out, not to destroy, but to contain. She pulled him inward, threading his energy through the first moment of creation itself, rewiring him into a loop where he could no longer consume, but only reflect. With a final breath, time sealed. The crucible shattered, and light returned. Carol collapsed to her knees, surrounded by the survivors, what few remained. Photon helped her up. Strange nodded grimly. America stared at a sky now calm but forever changed. Did we win? She asked. Carol looked up, unsure. We remembered. Behind her, the singularity smiled quietly. Sometimes, that's all the victory we get. But even as peace returned to the stars, far away, in a pocket between erased timelines, a spark flickered. A whisper, soft as dust. One more chance. That whisper slithered through the cracks of what should have been silence. It traveled unnoticed, beneath the roots of time, past the breath of cosmic sentinels, through the fading echoes of destroyed timelines, until it found the edge. The very edge. There, in a sliver of non-reality, a gutter between panels of existence, something opened its eyes. It wasn't him. Not the corrupted singularity. Not yet. But a remnant. A tiny shard of his will, severed before the loop closed. It pulsed, feeding off discarded probabilities and discarded futures. A survivor not of flesh or code, but intent, one singular purpose. Undo what she became. Back in the restored multiverse, Carol hovered above Earth, 616 once more. The sky above was unusually still. Too still. The stars felt staged, as if the universe was holding its breath. She sat quietly on the edge of the moon, gazing at Earth with her knees pulled up, armor flickering with residual cosmic energy. Photon floated beside her, silent for a long time before saying, "Do you feel that?" Carol nodded. Like we won the battle, but not the story. Strange joined them, cloak curled behind him like a coiled serpent. Reality's been stitched, but not sealed. Something's resisting closure. Carol looked at them both, brow furrowed. What if he planned that? What if losing was just his way in? Strange's eyes narrowed. You mean like planting a virus in the cure? Before they could respond, the moon trembled. A ripple. Then another. The stars twitched. Suddenly, Strange gasped. His third eye flared open. No, no, no. He left a back door. Carol stood instantly, fists glowing again. Where? Strange pointed skyward. Not into space, but sideways. Toward the abstract. And then it happened. Words began to change. All over Earth, books rewrote themselves. People forgot events that had just happened. Gravity reversed for 2 seconds. History textbooks began showing Carol Danvers as a villain. Entire timelines were being infected by false memory. It was narrative collapse 2.0, not through force, but through revision. He was rewriting the very meaning of Captain Marvel. She didn't wait. With America Chavez opening a portal mid-air, Carol flew straight into the breach, her past, her truth, her very identity at stake. Inside the breach was a library. Infinite. Burning at the edges. Floating in nowhere. She saw herself, but twisted. In one version, she led the Kree conquest. In another, she killed the Avengers. In another, she ruled Earth as a binary tyrant. Pages flew like leaves in a hurricane. And at the center of the storm was him. Or, what was left? A figure of shadow and ink. No longer whole. But enough to infect. He turned slowly, no mouth, just a jagged smile stitched from plot holes. "You're not real unless you're remembered a certain way," he whispered. "Let me help." She walked forward slowly, light swelling. "No. I'd rather be forgotten than become your fiction." He reached out, pages of false prophecy spinning around her. "You can't fight stories." She grinned. "No. But I can rewrite them." And she snapped her fingers. In that instant, she split herself into every version. Hero, villain, martyr, savior. And they all chose one thing. To be true. Each Carol reclaimed their agency, tore out the false pages, and lit them with starfire. The library screamed as history corrected itself from the inside out. And the remnant? It burned. It didn't scream. It folded, like a bad idea caught in the wind. She emerged from the breach seconds later, gasping, eyes glowing like twin suns. Strange caught her. "Did you stop it?" She looked down at her hands. Not shaking. Not scared. Steady. "I didn't stop it," she said. "I became the author." And across the stars, for the first time in untold cycles, no one forgot. But far, far beyond even that, in a room with no doors and no walls, a child sat, drawing, smiling, and sketching a new page. Captain Marvel, unwritten. The child sat in the silence of eternity, crayon scratching gently against parchment that pulsed like living skin. He wasn't evil. He wasn't good. He simply was. The first witness. The one who watched all stories, even those not yet imagined. As he finished the final line of his drawing, Carol Danvers standing over a multiverse no longer fracturing but pulsing with harmony, he leaned back and smiled. "It's done," he whispered. And the page folded itself shut. Back in her timeline, Carol floated above Earth once more. This time, not as a soldier, not even as a symbol, but as herself. The infinite versions of her had collapsed into something new. Not perfection, not myth, but wholeness. On Earth, the world moved on, unaware of the war that had almost erased them all. People lived, laughed, made mistakes, loved. Because of her. At the Avengers compound, she walked past a quiet hallway. Thor raised his drink in her direction. Banner gave a quiet nod. Even Tony Stark's hologram paused mid-routine and smirked. "Told you you'd save the universe twice," it said before flickering away. She stepped onto the roof and looked out over the city, alive, vibrant, real. Photon landed beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You sure it's over?" Carol took one, stared at the skyline, and said softly, "Not over. Just written. And the corrupted singularity." Carol smiled faintly. "A memory. And a warning." Photon nodded, thoughtful. "You scared he might come back?" Carol took a sip, her glow gone, her eyes just human. "No. Because this time, I remember. All of it. The fight. The loss. The choices. That's my real power, not the blast, not the flight." She looked up at the stars. It's knowing who I am, even when the universe tries to forget. Somewhere, across 1,000 timelines, echoes of her name were still whispered. But now, they weren't warped or twisted. They were true. And as the sky blinked with the quiet pulse of stars born again, Captain Marvel closed her eyes and smiled. Her story was no longer borrowed. It was hers. Forever.